believe that's what Canelo's mindset is. Make me, which was the same thing with Crawford. I certainly don't think he's scared of Crawford. He's like, fuck that fight. Make me want to do it. Turkey made him want to do it. And here we have it.
with a lot of fucking money. What do you know? It's funny how
What do you know?
usually a good answer to get what you
You
want.
know?
But we got a couple minutes left. So okay, so September 13th sounds like it'll be finalized in Vegas. My initial impressions are I wouldn't be surprised. Hate to be I'm real fun at parties, but I wouldn't be
Mm.
surprised if this is an anticlimactic cash grab because these guys are well into their 30s and they've made a lot of money and their legacies are already both secure. So I don't know if you get the kind of pitched battle like you just got Saturday between a 28 and a 27-year-old guy and Benavidez and Morel. You might get something closer to Mayweather Pacquiao, but the difference is, you know, Crawford I think is hungrier than Pacquiao was at the time Floyd Mayweather fought him, and I do think Crawford, his temperament going into that fight will differ from Mayweather and Pacquiao's temperament heading into their fight a bit, and that'll force Canelo's temperament if he wants to win and not hurt his brand a lot by losing to a former welterweight. That'll force Canelo to be on his P's and Q's. So I do expect like a very high level chess match and not a bad fight, but for the casual public who doesn't really know about weight classes and all the other context the nerd like me would provide, they may come away a little disappointed. They may be expecting, like a Leonard Hearn, someone goes down, someone goes stopped, and they're going to have to settle for a high level 12-round chess match between two guys who are still great, but maybe not at their greatest.
I'm expecting a classic. I'm expecting on the on the level of entertainment that we saw Canelo Triple G 2. Not that it's going to be that kind of firefight, but it'll be on that level of entertainment, and that this is going to be the best skilled Canelo you've ever seen. That he is going to enter this with a game plan. He is going to think that this is a fight he can prove and execute a level of skill that he hasn't been forced to use in some time based on his opponents that he has picked and wants to demonstrate and has absolutely not a molecule in his body that can accept losing to Terrence Crawford, not only because he is the lighter man, but because a lot of people have Terrence at number one pound for pound. And believe me when I tell you that Canelo believes he is far and away the number one pound for pound fighter and is insulted that Crawford would even dare to suggest that he wants a fight, much less at 168, and that this fight is actually happening, and people believe that he should be intimidated by the challenge, or at least will be challenged by the challenge. And for Terrence Crawford's sake, this is by far the most dangerous fight that he has as far as entering into this battle, for the obvious reasons of the disadvantages, for the obvious reasons that it is not just a money grab, but it's a money grab for a reason. Because this is a real pound for pound best kind of fight because there is such a weight differential between the two. It is, I believe, kind of a throwback fight. And because Terrence is so credited, rightly so, with his technical skill and his ability to break fighters down and switch and confuse and stay aggressive and has a killer instinct, he's a finisher and all this, it's going to be the hardest to prove and demonstrate that against Canelo. Because does he have the punching power to stop Canelo coming forward? Can he make Canelo think about counterpunching? Can he make Canelo worry about getting hit with something that actually hurts? Can Canelo's body shots stop Crawford from switching, make Crawford tuck up when we've never really seen him have to do that? These are the things that will make this fight an absolute classic and one of those kind of throwback fights where it's like the weight, once the first bell rings, is kind of out the window. And we're just looking at two elite fighters taking the best of what they have to beat the other. There may be some advantage for Crawford in being a lighter man, more nimble, being able to use his lighter weight against Canelo, believe it or not. if Canelo makes the wrong decision on how he approaches the fight and thinks that the weight will be the differential, and he thinks he's just going to sit back and wait on the knockout like he did with Amir Khan, he's terribly mistaken. And Crawford can expose that hubris on Canelo's part. I don't believe that will be the case, but it could be because,
Mm-hmm.
one thing about, I believe, fighting competition that is not challenging you, even if they are good fighters, they are, not
They was
bums,
handpicked. They're good fighters, but they're
but
not killers like this guy, Rock.
but you're not challenging your style. You can have a tendency to lay back and wait on knockouts, to use what you do best and not strengthen what you don't do best, so that you are completely keeping all your tools sharpened and staying efficient at how to use every bit of what you have to offer. This fight is going to require that each fighter use every bit of what they have to offer and sharpen all of their tools, because the adjustments are going to be crazy. If one of them thinks otherwise, then that is the one who is going to be beaten by his lack of preparation. This fight's going to be a classic. And when we come out on the other side, I think we will have definitively found that pound for pound number one fighter. No disrespect to Usyk, who people have, who make an argument for or whatnot, but I just believe that the amount of fights, the type of competition both of these fighters have had, and what it is going to require to win this fight makes, by my estimation, what pound for pound means. One of these two men will define that.
I started my take by saying I'm real fun at parties sarcastically, and you
Mm-hmm.
really are really fun at parties. And so we just like we the contrast was there in the two takes for sure as well. But no, I think you made a lot of great points. And I think even to your point about we're gonna find out who the pound for pound fighter is, I think that doesn't even matter. That's not even the highest stakes in this fight.
Mm.
This fight's about whose era is it? In the post Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao era, Ward retired there soon after. Who's the guy? And I think most people would give it to Canelo right now, but Crawford would snatch that crown from him if he beats him head to head, especially in his weight
Mm-hmm.
class, given a couple years of age. So everything's on the table for Crawford. For Canelo, he could look at this as a chance to kind of avenge the Mayweather fight. The last time I fought an undefeated pound for pound king who was the naturally smaller man, I got outboxed. And this is a chance for me. I never got the Mayweather rematch when I got into my peak at super middleweight and middleweight. Right that wrong, Canelo. Let that because Canelo's gonna
Mm.
have to find motivation from somewhere. Because Crawford is gonna come in kind of naturally the more motivated fighter because there's more to gain for him than Canelo. So Canelo, like you said, if Canelo comes in with some hubris, that really is what leads to helps lead to a easy not a that's what leads to the upset in part is if Canelo
For
thinks he can
sure.
walk down the smaller guy. I think if Canelo comes on his P's and Q's, most importantly with his head movement, which has been lacking a little bit, like in the Berlanga fight, but if he comes with that vintage nonstop upper body movement on the front foot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Crawford who's going to be the one who underestimated Canelo a little bit. And I think Bomac and Crawford will be like, this motherfucker is harder to hit than we thought. And
I
he's a little
love
faster than we thought.
I love the Mayweather Canelo analogy because it occurred to me, and on a different stream of thought, it occurred to me that it is Canelo who is offended by the challenge in the way that Mayweather was offended by the challenge of Canelo, not because he disrespects Canelo as a fighter or that Canelo disrespects the skills of Crawford, but that people actually think that this guy can beat me. That is what will motivate Canelo in the same way that it motivated Mayweather. And Canelo wants to go in there and make everybody look silly. Like he dismissed this fight for months, if not a year, when when it first started to be like, hey, maybe this could happen. He's like, come on, you never give me credit. It's like this guy's 2, 3 weight classes below me. Like this is he was like I think he said it to me personally. It's like this fucking stupid question. You know what I mean? So if you think it like that, and then you're watching these analysts and you're seeing fans and you're hearing in Turkey's like it's gotta happen. You're like, what? Well, okay, let me and like Mayweather said after the Canelo fight, like y'all wanted this. This is what y'all asked for. And you know what I mean? Like so I had to show you. Don't test me like this again. This ain't it. And again, this has nothing to do with disrespecting Crawford's ability or talent as a fighter. It's just that I think the weight differential and what Canelo believes his experience level is and ability to best a much lighter fighter who, in Canelo's estimation, probably hasn't fought or done what Canelo has done in the sport. That this guy, in Canelo's mind, at best, is the guy after him. Like he's gonna let Benavidez and Crawford and Hank and all these guys fight out for their era. This is, by Canelo's estimation, definitely his era. And everybody else just has to decide if they're going to be the man after him. So thinking that one of these guys is going to challenge him is something that he wants to thumb his nose at all of us who believe this is even a competitive fight.
Yeah, and one point I'll add too is I'm favoring Canelo initially, right? I mean, I think you're the same way. Like we like to keep an open mind in the lead up to the fight. Something may change your mind. Something on fight week, something from the fighters, their energy in the lead up to the fight. But right now I got Canelo Alvarez winning the fight. One thing in Crawford's favor though, and I'm going to continue the Rocky 3 references, is I think he's a little less civilized than Canelo. And
Mm,
Canelo's still getting in those ice baths out in the cold weather of Tahoe. So he's a savage. Like he's still a savage, but he's the guy who's been operating on autopilot a little bit more the last couple of years. And Crawford though has only been fighting once a year. Canelo's been busier,
mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm.
a little bit more the guy on autopilot. And Crawford, he still likes to wrestle random men down to the ground and beat them up on the carpet and sometimes duct tape them. And I was in a
Yeah,
chokehold of his like a week and a half ago at the Stephen Nelson Pacheco. He can still be very uncouth and uncivilized,
yeah.
which is good for a fighter.
It's a
And
great
Canelo
matchup.
is a little bit more the guy on silk sheets, and they both got
Yeah.
silk sheets, but Canelo a little bit more so.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great fight. I don't think I don't I don't have uh Crawford. I don't have him as an underdog. This is a tough one, man. You know what? Here's why, you're like, I hate predictions. It's not because I don't want to put my credibility on the line because I don't think predictions do that, but I don't believe that we know because anything that we're using to make these predictions are based on an equation that does not involve these two elements. I lean heavily on the idea that boxing is a sweet science, heavy on the science, and this is an experiment.
Uh-huh.
These elements have never come together before, and the way that they will be on the night that they do come together, they've never been individually before. These are going to be two fresh entities, and how they mix and what happens when the combustion comes with these two elements clashing. We don't know, which is what scientists do. They create these kind of situations and analyze them and find out. The thing that is unique about boxing is you never get the same thing twice, even if it's a rematch. Those two men will never be the same before or after that fight. And on the night, they will be uniquely who they are. Maybe somebody's got the flu. Maybe somebody's thinking about his girlfriend. Maybe somebody's completely zeroed in focus in a way that they've never been so focused before. You just so many things go into this kind of sport that we can only wait and see. The levels that will be on display come September 13th, I believe, is a unique, unique experience. And I just can't pick them. To your point, internally, I might go back and forth in my mind 10, 12 times between now and then. But the reality that I've come to in decades in this sport now, it's like nobody fucking knows. We're just guessing because we're scientists and we think as much as we've seen these elements react to other conditions, we can predict how they'll react to a new one.
I like taking stabs at it, that's for sure. But always try my best. I give
As you
my best
should.
stab at it. But
As
yeah,
you should. This is
yeah.
why scientists get together and have these conferences. This is what we're having, Sean. It's a scientific conference.
Oh, I'm sure it's super entertaining to everyone listening. I'm sure they love our science comp. No, but no, but hey, man, great catching up with you, man.
Hmm.
It feels like we're gonna have a good year of boxing, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah. On both sides of the pond and in Saudi. I think this is, if there was a golden age that we were all hearkening back to, I believe we're on the cusp of a platinum era. I don't know that we've ever seen this many fights that needed to happen when they needed to happen in succession in such a short period of time. And the weight divisions are only going to continue to come around because if the money keeps flowing and the networks keep working together and the promoters keep seeing advantage to being a part of this movement, then it can only create more. It can create a new normal, and it doesn't all have to hinge on Riyadh season in Saudi Arabia. I hope that this is an infectious movement that makes boxing on a whole think differently about how the sport can be promoted and how this fanfare can be acquired. Women's boxing, domestic boxing in the United States, domestic boxing in the United Kingdom, and Riyadh season in Saudi. If all those cylinders are working at their zenith, this is the greatest sport in the world.